All set? We're rolling. Okay, we're gonna get started here. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to a regular Monroe Town Board meeting for February 8th, 2022. And ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Noonan.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue.
Here.
Supervisor Kusniers.
Here. And if everyone would please rise for a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is the customary approval of minutes. We have only one set this evening for January 25th, which was the audit meeting. Everybody was present.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the audit meeting minutes from January 25th, 2022. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, COVID update, just briefly. I want to again let the public know that my office continues to have N95 masks available for pickup, and we have received another shipment of home test kits. So that'll make 2,100 home test kits that we've received to date. And we've handed out approximately 1,140 of those. So we still have a significant amount left. Anybody who needs them, just reach out to my office. We were pretty strict in the first delivery we had of 700. You had to be a town resident. You only could receive one test kit, which included 2 tests. But we're more lax on that now that I used to have to provide proof of residency. Anyone who shows up at town hall that would be a resident, we're accommodating what they need. So again, we still have that available. And also just some numbers, and this is most recent numbers available. Town of Monroe to date, 2,811 residents have tested positive. There are currently 52 active positive cases, and the number of recovered positive is 2,740. In the village of South Glens Falls, the number of tested positive cases is 814. Presently, there's 21 active positive cases, with 707 that have recovered. Total deaths for the town of Monroe is 19, and the total number of deaths in the village is 6. Judge. Next item on the agenda, I have listed as the assessor's office. We have a request from the assessor in relation to engaging or engage the services of our associates LLC. And I think all the board members have a copy of the addendum to the original agreement dated May 29th, 2019. If you recall, we have been utilizing their services to assist the assessor with our commercial properties, and they have provided the board with scope of services for 2022 with the payments, monthly payments of $3,750. So this is a 50%, approximately 50% reduction in the cost of the services from last year. So did everybody have a chance to read the proposal? My recommendation would be to engage their services and not just read the proposal. This addendum is made part of the professional services agreement between the town of Monroe and Gar Associates LLC. It has been mutually agreed by both parties that Gar Associates LLC will provide additional support services to the town of Monroe under the terms of the original agreement dated May 29, 2019, and modify the scope of services to include additional services as outlined in the attached proposal. Term of this addendum is for the period of January 2nd, 2022 through December 31st of 2022. Both parties agree that at the end of this term, this agreement may renew an additional time period as mutually agreed upon. As I mentioned, the payment schedule. And if you look at the last page of their proposal, you'll see that their services include the following. There's 20 items listed. They include systemic analysis, identifying inequitable assessments, residential and commercial sales verification, vacant land analysis, commercial analysis, application of trends to commercial and residential property classes, desk review of preliminary values, quality control process on values, commercial property permit valuation, COA mailing assistance, public relations assistance, informal review support, pre-article 7 small claims consultation, stipulation and bar consultation, MLS support, assist with preparation for the 2023 roll, which is for the period of July through December, PID creation and update, residential model cleanup, residential market documentation and generation, commercial property VFF update if applicable, and PROS website annual license for $45,000. And the assessor is recommending that we continue to engage with services with this addendum. So the board would like to move forward. I would entertain a motion authorizing the supervisor to sign the addendum agreement between the town of Monroe and Gar Associates LLC. Motion to approve. Second. Any discussion?
No, I just want to add that I think this, I support it. I talked to Rochester about this. And you know, we're moving in the right direction, and the cost is moving in the direction that we like. So I think this is perfect for us this time.
Similar comments, but you know, again, just the value is the point is to continue to hold that 100%. That's our valuation that is really a benefit to a lot of the taxpayers who many of that stuff. It's less expensive than us bringing on additional resources in the office. It's a good balance.
Yeah, it's critically important that we maintain our peak rate of 100%. As you heard from Councilmember Van Tassel, it impacts the value of our exemptions. Equally important, it's part of this county sales tax formula, and so we receive less revenue when we're not at 100%. So it's important to keep it for a number of reasons at 100%. And Gar Associates has done a great job working with our assessor to ensure that that continues to happen. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is the water department. We've got a couple items to go over. The first one is, I believe the board members have a copy of proposed revised contract addendum from our town engineer Burge Group. This would be addendum number 2018-107-02. And this is for services related to the sewer district number 1 extension 5 project. In a thumbnail overview of what's happening here is and you can see by the description, in the proposal. The addendum will increase the total contract amount to Laverne Group by $2,886.50. And this is for the overtime costs to date associated with the contract operations that exceed the 40-hour per week schedule. And this is actual overtime premium costs incurred by our engineers, subcontractor, which is Ravi Engineering, which is set forth in the section 2.7.21 of the agreement between the town and the contractor. And we receive payment from EFC. We pay Newcastle. Newcastle will deduct the cost of this from charge to the town. So it's a wash for the town, but obviously our engineers have to be paid for the oversight that takes place on an overtime basis on the part of the subcontractor. So that's the reason for the contract addendum. Any questions on that? So I would entertain, if there's no other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion authorizing the supervisor to enter into a contract addendum number 2018-107-02, revised on this day 2/8/22. Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Also under water, everything's on there. As you know, we have been advertising for some period of time now for a laborer for the water department. Council member in Tassel, myself, and our acting water superintendent, Mike Mooney, interviewed an individual yesterday, whom is an excellent candidate and brings with him a wealth of knowledge. He is a retired Saratoga Springs firefighter. For 20 years, while he was a firefighter, he also maintained and still does an excavation business where he has done a lot of sewer and water installations, working with our current water superintendent. And water superintendent had recommended him to the town, which is the reason why Councilmember Van Tassel and myself sat down with Mike, conducted the interview, and it's my recommendation, I believe Councilmember Van Tassel, that we move forward with this hire. And my recommendation within the confines of the 2023 budget is that rather than making it a hourly position, that we make it a salaried one, which will assist us regarding overtime. And the individual's name is Ricky Mangona of 187 Northern Pines Road in Danbury. And we talked about compensation, and he had hoped for a little bit higher than what we had offered, but we came to an agreement that he'd be willing to take the position salary full-time at $51,200. He will not take advantage of benefits as he's retired, receives benefits to his retirement. And he's had a long ongoing relationship with our current water superintendent. So I don't know if there's any questions board members may have, either myself or Councilmember Van Tassel may be able to answer. He's available to start whenever we want him. Obviously, he was subjected to the same pre-employment physical requirements and things like that.
I spoke with Councilmember Van Tassel last night about this, and I had questions, he answered them. I'm confident on the recommendation from our water superintendent, you and Councilmember Van Tassel.
Questions, comments?
Only a comment, just echoing some of what you said, we interviewed candidates, but this was one that's, I won't say stood way up, but, solid guy, very professional, presents himself well. I think it will really well developed, and he has the experience doing what we're going to be asking him to do. And, should be, I won't say we got lucky, but sometimes it'll take a little while.
Yeah, and, as far as compensation, this is pretty closely aligned with the previous laborer's position. Although that one was hourly, if you took into consideration overtime, it's similarly compensated. I think he will do an excellent job for us. So if the board would like to move forward on it, this evening, I'd entertain a motion to hire Ricky B. Mangona for the position of the Water Department labor at a annual salary of $51,200, subject to a successful completion of pre-employment physical within 2 weeks.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Now, he said he has been installed water lines, does he have any certifications now? Or
He does not, but he's more than happy to get it. And we're going to encourage him to do so.
Okay, then I would make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Also in the water department, I had an opportunity to speak with our water superintendent, Mike Mooney. And as you know, the town hired Mike in that role as an outside contractor at a rate of $75 per hour, part-time as needed. And he is very interested in being a part-time town employee, not a contractor, and he's willing to be compensated not at the $75 per hour rate, but at $61 per hour. And with this new hire, he will not need to put in the same number of hours that he has been, probably 5 or 6 hours less per month. So we'll be saving on that end. And we'll have somebody, with the labor here on staff, full-time during the day, which will go well. We have a clerk in place, and I think our water department is in pretty good shape. So my recommendation would be to rescind the resolution which engages services of Mike Mooney as an outside contractor at a rate of $75 per hour on a part-time basis, and designate him a part-time town employee at a rate of $61 per hour, part-time, which means no benefits, health insurance, or otherwise.
And still named as a water superintendent.
Yes, named as the town water superintendent.
Do we have any sort of identifier on that motion that we have to rescind, or just?
I would do it combined. Just clean it up. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to rescind the pay rate for water superintendent Mike Mooney from $75 an hour and change it to $61 per hour as a part-time employee.
When would you like that?
When,
Monday.
yeah, so effective Monday, February 14th.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Just an additional comment, just so there's clarity, that number 61 was a number we arrived at to make sure we covered all our costs. Right, so the town, even with the low bid, isn't going to be spending more than we were. Besides reduction of possible hours, we're picking up that low bid cost, so that's how we got to.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On the previous motion, we didn't set a date to start.
You were gonna, supervisor officer was gonna figure out the next payroll schedule ones, but we should. If we don't know the answer to that.
So, I guess we'll have to have a separate motion hire, establishing the start date for water labor, Ricky Mangona, Monday, February 14th.
So, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Comment. Yeah, it's just good to get that department in shape and that's a great move for us and the town. Mike's doing a great job. I think there's a lot of other value that we're going to see start to come forward to our taxpayers. Progress for the department, which is helpful.
Yeah, and we continue with these hires, as a compensation rate, we continue to save money over previous years than other departments, so the town benefits all the way around. Item 5 on the agenda is the highway department. A couple items under highway. First one is I want to make the board aware. I think you received a copy of the correspondence from New York State Department of Transportation that was sent to the town's highway superintendent in relation to the Dark Signal Initiative, which is a New York State program that's been ongoing for the past 10 years, whereby all the state lighted, by that I mean traffic lights, three-color traffic light intersections or crossroads in New York State are wired for the generator to be hooked to them, should power go out. And it's not a mandate, it's a volunteer program that municipalities can purchase monies for a generator to run these key intersections if they so choose. It's received lukewarm success, I would say, across the state because small municipalities, it's a pretty good expense if you want to put a generator at every traffic light. But I want to make the board aware that we do have that ability now if we were to budget monies in the future. So it's one item. The other item I have is we have a request from the highway superintendent, similar to the request at the last board meeting in relation to promoting a highway, an individual works as a highway mechanic to mechanic/MEO. And this was referred to the highway committee for recommendation. This go around, this memo dated February 3rd from the highway superintendent. He has indicated, because we want to know how this was going to be funded, there are enough funds to cover the salary increase in accounts DB 5510.1 of 309,000 and DB 5142.1 of 309,000. I can tell you that the first account does not exist. DB 5510.1, we do not have an account that's numbered or identified that way. Number one. Number two, the combined numbers were for the projected increase in existing personnel without any promotions, so it's still not saying where the money's coming from. And I don't know if the highway committee has more information on that at this time.
You know, we met with Paul about this. He said the funds are in his budget. Now, whether he messed up some numbers on here or not, I think is immaterial. I think what we have to do here is, what we have to do tonight to get this man promoted and that these are responsibilities. Paul said the gentleman worked hard to earn this promotion, and to sit here and nitpick over these things that where this is coming from, that realize the costing fees. And I realize we have to know what account it's coming from. I think we all know that there's a limit account, some account, and there's plenty of money. This is what he's saying, and those accounts to cover this. So I don't know why we're sitting here looking at this for too much longer. I'd like to move this over to this gentleman compensated for his hard work.
Okay.
I think it does a disservice to the public to characterize how you fund a particular positions referred to as nitpick when and make a blanket statement that there's plenty of funds there. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know, but I can tell you that at budget time, when the town board approved the total compensation for employees for payroll, there was not any discussion on the part of the highway superintendent. Otherwise, it would have been provided for in our budget. The monies that are provided for in the budget at this time are for the compensation rate based on an adopted contract, which we have done, with the projected increases for FICA, retirement, things like that. It did not take into consideration any promotions, nor were they asked for. So to say that we're nitpicking, I have to strongly disagree with that. All right. I'm going to go ahead.
So I hear both sides, no comments or one of the micro comments that I feel frustrated and embarrassed that we have an employee that's being impacted by a department head's inability to effectively provide this information. So either we, if there's an option that we can pass a resolution that would allow us to, with some condition, that if we work with Jeffrey and find the funds, where we're going to pull it from. I believe they're in there looking at it. I just don't know where the highway superintendent intended to pull it from, and this document doesn't tell us that. Or we have to kick it down the Camp Road to the next meeting, which I just feel bad for an employee that's being subjected to that. So I don't know if there's an option. If we have a resolution that will allow us to deal with this, quicker than the next meeting, assuming that we can confirm that this clerk or with Jeffrey where we're pulling this from. I'm okay either way, but I'd rather try to get it done. And I certainly respect the fact that we need to know where the money's coming from.
Right, yeah, I spoke with Jeffrey just this morning, and I know the supervisor mentioned a few meetings ago that we had some access or some unexpected sales tax money coming in from last year. And the amount was $896,000 plus. And I asked Jeffrey if there would be a possibility if we needed to take some of those funds and transfer them into the highway department. And he goes, yes, that could be done. So if funding is the issue, I would certainly like you say, Dr. Jeffrey, and say we can move those funds over and get this gentleman compensated.
Again, just from crystal clear in my position, I stand very strong position the supervisor made. We need to be more specific about exactly where the money comes from. So without that clarity, we need to get that. So that's where I'm at. But I'm okay either way. I just don't like seeing an employee now have something that was, committed to him, not come through because somebody hasn't done their job. So we'll leave it at that. First,
Well, that issue, if the, either a board member or the highway superintendent can accurately provide where money's coming from. I'm not, this isn't a debate on the merits of the proposal, this is a debate on how to fund it.
yeah, no, I'm with you for sure.
So just to be clear on that, so somebody brings it to the board, where the money's coming from. Then we move forward.
Let's do that. I could ask the highway committee to work with the personnel committee. Let's get the job done right this time, and talk to the highway superintendent.
Right, exactly. I think if there's an issue with any department head as far as procedures, when we talked to him, Mark, he said this is the way he's always done it. Just take, you know, and if that's not the proper way to do it, you know, maybe that's the way past administrations did it, whatever. I think that's a separate issue we have to take care of. We have to take care of it and send a memo to these departments exactly what is expected of them from this administration. You know, if that's the way it's always done other administrations and it's not proper, let's inform these people, make sure they follow the proper procedures. I don't have a problem with that at all.
I know the feedback is a member of the personnel committee that I gave the highway committee, tell Paul to put it in writing with very specific details, what kind of pulling the money out of, how's it gonna fund it, and put us in a spot here tonight where we can make a decision with the facts.
I can agree with that.
And so, I haven't been on the board as long as others, but the time I've been involved, I've seen more attention to detail, that we don't see here tonight.
Okay.
So, but I do want to stay actively involved and take care of the employees. So, we'll pass, we'll hold it, and we'll deal with it next week. Next meeting.
I think in the next meeting, I have a little more information on people and supervisor, and this meeting will get the exact amount, work with Jeff, and have a motion. So we'll go forward for to this point, so.
And, yeah, I don't think a memo is necessary and what's expected of the department. This is my 5th year as supervisor. I haven't changed, I've been on the board 21 years, I haven't changed what I look for in having these types of requests approved. I would suggest that other departments don't seem to have a problem following what's expected. And this one should not have the same issue. We'll take it up, should we have the proper information on the next board meeting? We will. All right. Item 6, court offices, we have a request from both justices, which who are with us this evening. I think all the board members received a copy of a request for a per diem employee. They are looking to hire 2 students on a per diem basis to electronically scan all of the files into the system. They indicate this will be a large undertaking at first, as we have thousands of files to be scanned. Upon completion of that, it would be a quarterly event going forward. Students would come in on days off, vacation, or summer to complete the task at hand. They would either be paid in hourly wage or as a contractor, subject to the board's decision. These students could be used in other departments. I don't know that we discussed an intern program, but so
This was all new.
So tell me about how we're going to fund this.
Well, that was a good question. I listened to your last discussion. So what we're hoping to do is we're going to have to go back and look at our budget to see what we can do to fund this. It would probably be on an hourly rate, unless it would be more cost effective to do it contractually. Because we have records that are in the church, in the youth center now, in the basement. That if anything is 25 years or older, we're required to keep them because they're historical documents. We can't destroy them. So anything less than 25 years, we can. So, but that's the other problem. We have to hold records for 25 years. So everything is over, it's kind of going over, flowing. So this was a thought by our court clerks to present it. So we really didn't discuss any money yet. We just wanted to get the board's viewpoint on this, possibly getting some, high school kids. They would have to go through the same security rigmarole. They have to be fingerprinted, processed, and physical, because they're going to be handling boxes. So they're going to have to go do a physical in the whole night.
So do
We could table it for a couple of weeks. So
why
we can
don't
come up with some money.
if the person on committee is willing to look into that, work with
Yeah.
you folks.
Yeah.
It should probably be, if we're going to establish, my feeling, if we're going to establish that type of program, probably should be open to, we're an equal opportunity employer.
Absolutely.
So everybody
Yeah.
would have to have a fair
Yeah,
shot
yeah.
at the application
Yeah.
process. There could not be a preordained candidate.
No, but we could actually use 2 at a time and then go to another 2, because we're going to be doing this for a while. I mean, we're backlogged on our files. So, I mean, it would be nice to just condense them. As long as we keep permanent record, we're okay. And the other thing is too, we have JCAP funds that just came in, they're $5,000. They're earmarked already for this year. We got approved, by the way, we got our JCAP funds. So they're going to be utilized. This is something that JCAP can pay for.
Oh, good.
So even if we had to hold it, I would like to do it this year. If the funds don't make it available, we'll come up with a good assessment plan, submit it for JCAP. They earmark funds for condensation and scanning of documentation in the court system. So we have that available to us too. So that's another option for us. So, which, we just wanted to throw it to the board and give, an absolutely equal opportunity. We have no, we probably would allow the school to get the school involved even in this and let them come up with selected candidates through the school and work with the school. Somebody that might want to be associated with the criminal justice system that's not in front of us, but working with us. So.
Yeah.
Or even in front of us.
That was my question. There's a lot of kids in the school who want to volunteer that want to get into criminal justice or any volunteer. Intern. So that's where, is there any
Possibility.
or anything that need the credits for payment at this point?
I don't know if you get any credits for this. But I know the high school that Saratoga Springs has intern programs and they do criminal justice programs and they get accredited an entire semester to do them. So we can I'll check with Lisa Flynn. She's the head of the intern program in Saratoga Springs. That's the judge from McCannville's sister. So she's pretty sharp. She's right, and she's involved in our system on a regular basis. So I'll check with her. We had a couple.
Councilman has been hired on personnel committee. So
Yeah, we'll look up and see if we can come up with funds. If not, we'll try to make an aggressive approach to it down the road anyways. A couple other things. We're looking at 2 new clerks to get into our system. We're losing a clerk. We had 1 clerk that's opening, but they would only work one at a time. So the hours shouldn't change. As far as how many, the money won't change. We have it budgeted for a clerk, so we should be able to cover that. And also a court officer. We're looking to, because our court officer is going to be moving on. So that will probably take place within the next 3 weeks. So we'll have an application in for the board for the next meeting. Okay, so we'll try to get a couple applications in, maybe a couple different interviews. We're going to try to interview as fast as we can with this. All right.
Anything else?
Any questions to the court about the court? Anything, guys?
How are revenues looking?
They're about average. I think they're up a little bit, which surprises me because of COVID. So our revenues are slightly up compared to, the year end was pretty good. The new judges getting on board with us pretty well. Doing pretty well. So But it's, no, we're doing pretty well. We're about average where we usually are, January, February, because of Christmas takes a hit on the revenues. So January, February, usually lower revenues for a while, but try not to look at that too much. You know, we don't care, you know, we really can't.
As long as you meet expectations, we don't care either.
Well, we just want to make sure that justice is fairly doled out. Exactly.
Some of that flow is out of your control.
Yeah, oh yeah, most of it today.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Gotta
guys.
say something.
Yeah.
All right, next item on the agenda, number 7 is Recreation Department. And first item I have for Recreation Department is had a conversation with Council Member Stewart as a result of an incident that medical incident that we had as part of the town's basketball program. And he brought up a very good point. This individual, the student, mother declined medical attention and took the daughter home right after that. And we had an emergency squad, I think, responded, and they followed their procedure for declination of services. However, the student is participating in a town sanctioned event, and we have no policy on returning to the event. And obviously, from a legal standpoint, there's some legal liability for the town if we don't have proper protocol in place. And so I think it would be a very good idea, and I have a copy, and I think all board members have a copy of the school district's policy on return to competition after an injury or a concussion. I think some of that information might be able to be useful for a policy that we put in place. So my recommendation would be for Council Member Stewart to take that and maybe work with the personnel committee to come up and the town attorney to come up with a policy that we can consider and possibly adopt maybe at our next board meeting that provides additional legal protection for the town. So appreciate Councilman Stewart for bringing that to my attention. And the next item for rec department is a relation to carry over from the previous board meeting in relation to repairs to 2007 club car XRT. And I think Council Member Van Tassel is going to address that.
As a member of the rec committee, Councilman Stewart and myself had met and spoke with the department head, and so we've got a pretty good understanding. Councilman Donahue also is fairly knowledgeable on the topic because he had a similar conversation with the department head. But here's where we stand, which appears to be a request that came in tonight, maybe a little different than thought enough of the department head. This is a 2007 piece of equipment, this Cubcat, which is maybe that's the heavy duty golf cart that's into repair. And the minimum of $2,000 to repair it. It's not even going to be worth that at the end of the day. And so our recommendation is that we're going to not repair it. We'll get it back. We'll try to sell it off for parts. The tracks that we have for it are above and beyond more value than the equipment itself. So we'll try to sell those off at the same time. And Councilman Stewart will work with the supervisor, since both of them have some extended knowledge on heavy equipment, and they're going to come up with some standards. And the rec committee is going to be looking to come back to the board to explore going out and purchasing the right size, right quality equipment. And we need to continue to invest in equipment for our departments. And this is a really great move it wasn't budgeted, we know that, but we've got money in the outside, capital reserve, and there may be some other options with, increased sales tax revenue and loosening of our, but we'll find some funds, but committee will come back to the board with some recommendations soon to replace that. There's workaround solutions in place, currently for the rec department to get through without that piece of argument. So, Councilman Stewart, anything additional?
No, I agree. We're gonna work with the department there to see what we can use for equipment we have now and sort of what we should invest into 2007 and what we're really getting back for our money. We have potentially a better option to move with us. It'll be my recommendation. Obviously, it's up to everybody on board, but that we might focus, let's head in the right direction, let's get the right equipment. Maybe we lose out on a little bit this season, maybe we have to work a little harder for one more summer, but in the long run, it's going to be better.
And if we can find the funding, and again, we'll let the board weigh in against our recommendations, so we bring them back, we may not have to wait till next year, right?
Correct, that's basically the direction we're looking at, so basically should be correct. The next couple of months, potentially, work a little harder.
One of the things, hone in on, mission specific for that vehicle. They want to take a look, see if there's, anything in state contract, say,
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay.
We'll close our comments.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I agree 1,000%. I adamant about putting money into real old machinery and stuff. I agree with Mark. We have to give these people the proper equipment to do the job down there. And I think it's a good place to start as far as replacing antiquated equipment and stuff. And, I look forward to, to moving forward with this and get that piece of equipment down there, like Mark said. Just have to muddle through this winter, the rest of the winter without it, try to improvise and we'll take it through. And keep working on get that piece of equipment to them. So, we're heading in the right direction.
Any other comments? If not, we will move on to agenda item 8, which is Big Bend Trail. As everyone is aware, we're fortunate to receive a $250 million grant for the trail along the Hudson River. And at the last board meeting, I had reached out to see if in the group, a company that was heavily involved in our success in receiving the grant would be interested in putting a proposal together to make sure that we provide the necessary documentation so that can benefit from the grant. And we have a proposal from the LA group in relation to the Big Bend Trail, which outlines what they're willing to do for an hourly wages for not to exceed that. What's the hourly?
It depends on the level of resources.
Okay, so the bottom line is they will provide guidance on registering and completing a task to the gateway, the grants gateway. They'll be involved in the pre-permitting and SHPO questions. They also will be involved in the environmental assessment form, short form application, and they'll assist with cost share and budget summaries. They're willing to do that with a fee schedule that is attached to the change order at an amount not to exceed $750, including reimbursable expenses. My recommendation would be to move forward with the services. And we'll have a board feels on that.
Yeah, so, I present a motion to approve, but actually we have a resolution,
So we do have a resolution. I know council has reviewed it. Are you okay with the resolution?
I am.
Drafted?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. We, there's certain things we have to do as part of the program. It's kind of sensitive. Basically, we have to do
The resolution does reference an easement. We are probably not going to, it's all on town property.
It is.
The language is hard to leave in, just want to point out, we're not actually going to give them an easement, it's all our stuff.
So is everybody okay with the proposed resolution? Yes. Do you have a copy of that, or do you want me to read it?
Actually have it.
Would you like to read it?
Sure. Resolution, whereas the town of Monroe applied for financial assistance from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation under the Recreational Trails Program or other for the purpose of funding the Big Bend Trail Phase 1. And whereas the town of Monroe is authorized and directed to accept these grant funds in an amount not to exceed $250,000, project described in the grant application. And whereas the town of Monroe is authorized and directed to agree to the terms and conditions of the master contract with OPRHP for such Big Bend Trail Phase 1. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Monroe is authorized and directed to agree to the terms and conditions of any required deed of easement granted to OPRHP that affects title to real property owned by the municipality and improved by the grant funds, which may be duly recorded public access covenant, conservation easement, and or preservation covenant. And be it further resolved that the governing body of the municipality delegates signing authority to execute the master contract and any amendments thereto, any required deed of easement, and any other certifications to the individual or individuals who holds the following elected or appointed municipal office or offices or employment position titles, town supervisor and or deputy supervisor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just really supportive of using a lake where the speed to not exceed 750 is. Maybe we take other organizations that much, they expect just keeping up the speed. They were very much instrumental in helping us get the $250,000. So that's fine.
Any other comments or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry. Does this resolution cover hiring LaBerge?
No, I got this,
Oh, got
but
it.
I wanted to do this,
Yes, I'm sorry.
and seeker, and then.
Thank you.
So this requires us to do the short form, environmental form.
Yes.
Part of that, and you want to run through that, or you want to?
You can run through it. You have to say goodnight, everybody, like,
Yes.
yeah. That's fine. I think I would note that the project sponsor information at the top, part 1 is blank, it should be town of Monroe, obviously.
Yes.
And the signature page on page 3, the applicant sponsor name would be, again, the town of Monroe by the supervisor, not just the supervisor's name. Otherwise, it's fine, go forward. Go through it.
Yes. So we'll go through the short form real quickly. As council indicated, name of the project sponsor information is Town of Monroe. Name of the action of the project is Monroe Big Bend Trail Phase 1. Project location is Hudson River and Nolan Road. Brief description of proposed actions, engineering and construction of Phase 1 to connect the Nolan Road boat launch to Monroe State Park on lands owned by the town of Monroe. Name of applicant sponsor against town of Monroe with appropriate identifying information. Number 1, does the proposed action only involve legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? If yes, attach narrative descriptive of the intent of the proposed action and environmental resources that may be affected in the municipality. Proceed to part 2. If no, continue to question 2. I believe that's a no. Everybody's in agreement. Number 2, does the proposed action require permit approval or funding from any other government agency? No. Number 3, total acreage of the site of the proposed action. A is 208 acres. B, total acreage to be physically disturbed, 2.89 acres. And C, total acreage owned by or controlled by the applicant of the project sponsor is 250 acres. Will be okay with that?
Yes.
Number 4, check all land uses that occur on or adjoining or near the proposed action. Choices are urban, forest is checked, parkland is checked, rural is not, agriculture is not, industrial is not, aquatic is checked, commercial is not, Residential is not, we did not specify. Give that here.
Yes.
Item 5 is the proposed action of permitted use under the zoning regulation. A and B consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. Check yes to both of those. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
And number 6 is the proposed action consistent with the predominant character of the existing built or natural landscape. Check yes. Number 7 is the site of the proposed action located in or does it adjoin a state listed critical environmental area? We check no. Number 8, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? We checked no. B, are public transportation services available at or near the site of the proposed action? No. And C, are any pedestrian accommodations or bicycle routes available on or near the site of the proposed action? We checked yes. Everybody feel that? Yeah. And number 9, does the proposed action meet or exceed the state energy code requirements? We checked no. Number 10, will the proposed action connect to an existing public-private water supply? We checked no. Number 11, will the proposed action connect to existing wastewater utilities? We checked no. Number 12, A, does the project site contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historic Places, or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places? We checked no. B, is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designated as sensitive or archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office archaeological site inventory? We checked no. Everybody okay so far? Yes. Number 13A, does any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by a federal, state, or local agency? We checked no. B, would the proposed action physically alter or encroach into any existing wetland or water body? We checked no. Number 14, identify typical habitat types that occur on or are likely to be found on the project site. Check all that apply. We checked shoreline, wetland, and forest. We did not check urban. We did not check agricultural grasslands. We checked suburban, and we did not check early mid succession. Okay, there. Number 15, does the site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed by the state or federal government as threatened or endangered? We checked no. Is the project site located in a 100-year floodplain? We checked no.
Can I ask one question on 13 and 14? Don't we kind of contradict ourselves and say that there is no wetland bodies or regulated by the federal, state, next to 14, we check for the wetlands. Wetlands that have to be regulated by somebody. Or are they just saying they're not recognized by the Army engineers? You see, I'm sorry, I'm so confused.
Well, I think 13 is asking if we're approaching on.
Right. So whatever.
Or in portions. Yes or no? Just as to the portion of site action joining. They're joining.
I don't know if
It's like too much confusion. We say that's, I'm fine with it, if that's what we're going with, we're not gonna be actually in the wetlands. But it's just clarifying the joining part of it. Just maybe one for is and I guess I go right back to your next question, 16.
I mean, the way I read it, 13 identifies those that are encroach on or alter. The 14 is just listing those that happen to exist, not relevant. Whether we're going to.
Yeah, I guess B, I would agree with B, but I guess on number 13A doesn't say anything about approaching or encroaching or into or anything specifically separate from B, which states that.
Understood that, yeah. So isn't, I guess this question for council, this is the trail itself, not the land contiguous to it, right?
It's just a trail.
Yeah, so the trail itself, I don't think it's designated wetlands because of the loan. But I'm not. Am I reading that?
You are.
Okay.
It's a trail.
Does that answer your question?
That works for me.
Okay, so we left off on 16. Is the project site located, do you want me to start over? Is the project site located under your floodplain? We said no. Obviously, floodplains are designated on listed maps, so review that. Number 17, will the proposed action create stormwater discharge, either from point or non-point sources? We checked no. Will stormwater discharges flow to adjacent properties? We said no. And will stormwater discharges be directed to established conveyance systems, runoff, and storm drains? We checked no. Everybody okay with that? And does the proposed action include construction or other activities that will result in the impoundment of water or other liquids, i.e. RPG, detention pond, waste lagoon, dam? We checked no. 19, has the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property been the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility? We checked yes. Obviously, it's close to the closed landfill, town road landfill. Number 20, has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been the subject of remediation, ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? We checked no. Everybody okay with that? Does that require resolution, council, or at this sign it based on?
We'll sign it after we talk through the. Yes.
So that's part one. And then we have part two, which is the short environmental assessment form.
We can take one through another one again.
Which has the same answer for all questions. All right, so keep in mind that we checked no or small impact may occur to all these questions, 1 through 11. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Number 2, will the proposed action result in change in the use of or intensity of use of land? Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character and quality of the existing community? Number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affecting existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation and renewable energy opportunities? Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies, and B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character, quality, and important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Number 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in natural resources? Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And number 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? Again, we'll check no to all that. Great. And then the last question for part 3 of the EAF short form. We have checked the box that we have determined based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Great. All right. So that's part one, part two. Sure, part three. So we've done the reso, so we just have to do the grant administration resolution. So again, as we discussed at the top of this agenda item, we have a proposal from the LA group in relation to Big Bend Trail, where they seek Exhibit E, which is the Addendum contract change order. Dated change order is February 2nd, 2022. The job number is 202-106-2-001. And we have total cost of services not to exceed $750, including reimbursable expenses. So I would entertain a motion authorizing the supervisor to sign the addendum to the contract change order.
Make a motion.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And we can talk about this job for about 5 years.
A lot of volunteers. Supervisor items, we do not have any supervisor items, committee reports. Just want to point out that we received over half a dozen applications for the water clerk, or the clerk for the water department. And we also have some applications for the billing coordinator, which personnel can we have an opportunity. We'll have a vacancy there, April 1st.
Yeah, I don't know if those made it to our mailbox. I'll follow up on your office.
Okay. So no, you can get it within time.
I'll just speak myself, I have my mailbox, and I don't have it there.
So I'm sure, but it all board members are passing. And any other application that we received, if board members going through and wants them to be considered by the personnel committee, just get their name to committee members. We'll get their name. That's all I have. Any committee report from the board?
Transfer station,
Transfer station.
our loader, Mark and I met with Paul last week. He's looking into prices of loaders, leasing programs and stuff. He's gonna set up some appointments for us to speak with some representatives in the different companies to see what they offer for lease programs. So that's where we are with that right now. It's going to be getting more information. We'll get back to the board. So.
Great.
The other thing was, for the rec department, sat and talked with Pete, looking for a little information on possibly where the community garden project's gonna go. We got that grant money, right at $2,500, just under. Just really looking for some direction from us, so they can start planning for their race beds, et cetera.
So when we chat about it, we'll bring back a recommendation to the board next week.
I didn't know if anybody.
Yeah, I gotta get back to people.
Yeah, that doesn't require board action. If you just want to brief for somebody to decide, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll move forward.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
They did a great job raising funds and stuff for that. And people that enjoy that.
I do need a brief executive session. Before I do that, we have members of the public. So I'm going to move privilege of the floor up so that you have an opportunity to speak, since you've been waiting patiently just over an hour. Just state your name for the record and address. And because we are, this is being zoomed to the public, please come up to the podium when you speak.
How we doing?
Good.
Well, you remember me, Brad Nelson.
Yeah,
There you go. I know Mark, I know just about everybody, so we're getting a little bit test. This is my first time. I got a letter in the mail about water. My question is, I don't have water run in front of my house. am I gonna have to pay this?
So, I'm aware of these issues that came out when we adopted the new water ordinance. We knew that we would have to tweak it along the way.
Okay.
One of the issues that, because of the calls that my office has received, is we just become aware that we have property owners within a water district that doesn't have infrastructure in front of their house.
Okay.
So my recommendation is to have the water committee look at, since it's not there, number one, if the homeowner wants water, obviously the town has an obligation to install the infrastructure.
Okay.
So, do we run the water pipes in front of the property? And if so, obviously that creates a benefit to the property owners. So therefore do you pay, or if the property owners don't want the pipes run, do you not pay at all? And so, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my recommendation is probably you've got to come up with a policy that if nobody wants the infrastructure run in front of the home, you can't tie into it. You shouldn't have to pay for it.
Okay. Do you know about my situation?
What's your address?
205 forever.
Yes.
Okay. Because it ends on cistern and it doesn't start.
Yeah, so the fire hydrant,
Yes.
it would actually be beneficial to the town to close the loop, so, we can circulate the water through there, it's just better, but, listen, we don't want to spend the money on infrastructure if the homeowners don't want it.
My understanding of talking to two or other former water superintendents was that going underneath the railroad track was an expense, a very high expense. So to cross off a bunch of different check boxes, they just decided to build a new water tower to bump up the pressure and do other stuff. So that's my understanding of why it doesn't go down that road. So I just want to make sure that I'm not going to get charged.
Yeah, so
Even
I think
with the fire, because the fire extinguisher, fire hydrants are so far away from my house, I don't count in that fire protection, if that's the correct terminology.
Yeah, so, no, so that's actually a homeowner's insurance issue. You
Okay.
want to know if you have access to municipal water through hydrants, and obviously the rates will be lower.
Yep.
I don't know how many feet you have to
I'm
be.
far enough away where I live.
So what I'd like the water to take a look at these issues, and, come up with a proposal for us to discuss, at our next board meeting. I'd like to have it ironed out before the next quarterly billing, obviously, so that, we could move forward with it. We don't, I don't think any board member probably supports charging a landowner who can't get water, a minimum charge for it. I mean, we'll take the money, but I don't think.
I'll gladly keep it too, so.
Your address.
205 whatever. Yes.
201 is similar.
I believe there's like, I would say 7 or 8 houses in that stretch, just for me guesstimating.
Now, just so you're aware, there could come a situation where new property owners come in, they petition the board, and then we have to extend the water line.
Yep.
So if we did something like that,
Now, would I be forced to hook up at that point, and would that be?
well, that's, so we don't know, that's what we have to decide.
Okay. Either way, if I get hooked up, that's fine, I just want to be able to have the opportunity to do it.
Do you want?
Not necessarily, I have a well, it works fine, and, check back with me in 10 years, we're gonna replace it.
Yeah, some people, they want municipal water, because they feel that value to them, no problem.
It does to some degree, but I'm quite happy the way it is now. Can't speak for everybody on the road, the 8 houses or so, but from what I read, from what I know.
I've only heard some, 201, 205.
Okay, we're the noisiest ones, so. That was about that, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Would you like to address? it?
No, that,
Okay.
as long as we're included on the discussion of what we decide for the water.
Oh, yeah, so, I hope that the water committee has, a couple recommendations which we can act on at the next board meeting, which is in 2 weeks. So you're welcome to attend,
Yeah.
conversation on that.
If we do get a bill, I think you said March 1st. What would you like me to do with it?
Well,
I didn't mean that in that sense.
Would you like me to pay it, or should I come back?
no, I would just hold on.
Okay.
I mean, we should have a policy before March.
Okay, perfect.
All right, you got it. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
So for executive session, brief conversation, particular unnamed town employee work history, and also an update on contract negotiations regarding the sale of 59. So somebody.
Motion to go into executive session. So,
All in favor?
Aye.
Stay here.
thank you, folks.
All right, we like to report that we're out of executive session and that no action was taken in executive session. Under other business, I do have one quick item. We're all anxious with the moratorium on subdivisions in town ticking down. We committed to our residents that we would, try and get a zoning, sewer ordinance, whatever we would like to do with that in play as quickly as possible. And one of the things that requires a public hearing, once we get to the point, I think board members have now received a draft copy for comment of the proposed sewer ordinance. We have not received a proposal for zoning change. I know council is working on it. But you need a town board meeting to set the public hearing. Can't set the public hearing on it, so you have the documents available for the public. So what I would like to do is schedule a brief special board meeting next week, just to receive an update on zoning and the sewer ordinance, to see if we're ready to go to public hearing. If we are at that meeting, we'll set the date and time. So, looking at the schedule, this week we've got 14th. Did you say Thursday? No, Thursday's fine.
Yeah, Thursday, we're.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Mark? Thursday. Thursday is the 17th. Correct. What's a good time?
Fine, whatever.
All right, so I need a motion to establish a special town board meeting for 5 p.m. on February 7th. So,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Any other business before that? If not, I'll entertain, well, we've already had the privilege of the floor. Entertain a motion to adjourn. So,
We'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Alvin.
Well, guys, see you, sir.
I